Hey everyone, welcome back to Hyperwook. So, I recently went back and rewatched both Shin Hati's scenes in Ahsoka and Rey's entire sequel trilogy. And I came to a realization that should honestly terrify Disney's studio executives.
I don't understand.
Somehow Shin, with barely 20 minutes of screen time across 8 episodes, has sparked more genuine fan excitement than Rey did across 3 blockbuster films and a billion-dollar budget.
Nice.
And before the sequel defenders come for me in the comments, I'm not here to bash Daisy Ridley. She's a talented actress who got handed an impossible script situation. This is about character writing, and frankly, it's about how the people running Star Wars somehow forgot what they knew about creating compelling characters. Let's talk numbers for a second. Rey had 3 movies: The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and The Rise of Skywalker. That's roughly 6.5 hours of screen time, a marketing budget that could fund a small country, and the full weight of the studio machine behind her. Shin, 8 episodes of a streaming show, most of which she appears in for maybe 2 or 3 scenes each. Yet if you go on Reddit, Twitter, or any Star Wars forum right now, you'll find significantly more positive discussion about Shin's potential, her character arc, and genuine excitement about where her story might go. Meanwhile, Rey discussions are still, well, let's just say they're contentious. So what happened here? How did they manage to create a more compelling character in a fraction of the time with a fraction of the resources? Well, let's see. Shin works because from her very first scene, she has clear motivations that drive her actions.
Chakris, get RD3 to scan these imposters for identification.
Allow me to show you our identification.
She's Baylan Skoll's apprentice. She's searching for power. She's conflicted about the traditional Jedi path, and every single decision she makes serves those core drives. When she ignites her lightsaber, when she questions Baylan, when she shows mercy or cruelty, it all stems from established character traits. Rey, on the other hand, spent 3 movies being reactive. She didn't drive the plot forward through her choices. She was dragged along by it. This wasn't Daisy Ridley's fault. This was a fundamental writing problem that started in the story room. That's how messy the writing situation really was. J.J. Abrams even admitted in interviews that when they started filming The Force Awakens, they still hadn't decided who Rey's parents were. It's kind of building a character around a mystery they hadn't solved yet. That's like building a house without knowing where the foundation goes. Meanwhile, Dave Filoni and the Ahsoka writing team clearly knew exactly who Shin was before they wrote a single scene. You can see it in how consistently she behaves, how her dialogue reflects her internal conflicts, how her fighting style matches her personality. This is character writing 101, and somehow the sequel trilogy forgot to do it. Okay, so let's break down what makes Shin actually work from a screenwriting perspective. First, she has what we call active goals. She wants to find Ezra Bridger. She wants to prove herself to Baylan. She wants to understand her place in the larger conflict. These aren't passive desires. They require her to make choices and take actions. Second, she has meaningful obstacles. Her loyalty to Baylan conflicts with her growing independence. Her dark side training conflicts with moments of unexpected mercy. Her desire for power conflicts with her recognition that some prices might be too high to pay. Third, and this is crucial, she has competence with limitations. What I mean is that she's clearly skilled with a lightsaber and can use the Force effectively, but she's not overpowered. When she fights, there are stakes. When she makes mistakes, there are consequences. The audience can believe in both her victories and her defeats. Now let's compare that to Rey's arc across 3 movies. Her goals were mostly reactive. Find Luke, stop the First Order, defeat Palpatine. These aren't bad goals, but they're responses to external threats rather than internal drives. Her obstacles were largely external too, you know. Bad guys to fight, mysteries to solve, powers to master. And her competence level was, well, this is where things get problematic. Rey could pilot the Millennium Falcon better than Han Solo despite never leaving Jakku. She could use Force powers that took Luke years to master after a few minutes of trying. She could defeat Kylo Ren in lightsaber combat despite never holding a lightsaber before. Let me show you exactly what I mean by breaking down specific scenes. In Ahsoka, during her duel with Sabine on Cedos, Shin doesn't try to understand her or ask about her choices. Instead, she cuts right to the bone. It's a short line, but it says a lot about Shin. She's not curious about her enemies. She's dismissive and cruel, using words as a weapon.
You have no power.
At the same time, that need to put Sabine down shows a streak of insecurity beneath her confidence. Compare that to Rey's interrogation scene with Kylo, where Rey is strapped to a chair and Kylo tries to read her mind. Rey resists and somehow reads his mind back. What does this tell us about Rey as a character? That she's strong with the Force, I guess? That she's defiant? These are surface-level traits, not deep character insights. Shin's scene, on the other hand, isn't about curiosity. It's about cruelty. Her taunt to Sabine shows arrogance, a sharp instinct for finding weakness, and a need to assert dominance. One scene advances plot, the other reveals character. And guess which one creates more audience investment? Or look at how both characters handle failure. When Shin loses a fight, or when she and Baylan fail to prevent Ahsoka from reaching Peridea, she doesn't throw a tantrum or blame others. She immediately starts planning their next move. Rey's relationship with failure is complicated. When she fails at something, the narrative usually reveals that she didn't actually fail, or that her failure was part of some larger plan, or that she learns to succeed through pure determination. In The Last Jedi, she fails to turn Kylo to the light side, but then the movie immediately shows her successfully lifting a mountain of rocks to save the Resistance. The failure doesn't stick long enough to create genuine character growth. This difference in how failure is handled reveals something crucial about character development. Shin is allowed to be wrong, to make mistakes. Rey, on the other hand, is protected by the narrative from experiencing genuine consequences for her choices. And here's the thing. Audiences connect with characters who struggle and grow, not characters who are shielded from real failure. When Shin questions whether Baylan's methods are the right ones, or when she deliberately chose to wound Sabine rather than kill her outright, these moments work because they're earned. We've seen her capacity for both cruelty and compassion, so when she chooses one over the other, it kind of feels like a real choice made by a real person. And what about Rey's big character moments? Choosing to face Kylo, deciding to confront Grandpa, taking the Skywalker name? Yeah, we're not touching that, by the way. These should be powerful emotional beats. But they feel hollow because we haven't seen Rey genuinely struggle with the alternatives. And this brings us to something really interesting about the different approaches to Star Wars characters. Because here's the thing, the people making the streaming content actually know how to do this right. They've proven it multiple times. Look at Din from The Mandalorian. Here's a character who starts the series as a rigid bounty hunter, following an ancient code, and over 3 seasons in an upcoming film, we watch him slowly learn to care about something beyond his creed. His relationship with Grogu doesn't just happen. It develops through specific scenes where he makes increasingly personal sacrifices for this child. Or look at Cassian Andor in his series. This is a character we know dies in Rogue One, so the show can't rely on plot suspense. Instead, it focuses entirely on character development, showing us how a cynical survivor becomes someone willing to sacrifice everything for the rebellion. Every episode adds layers to his motivation, his relationships, his worldview. So what's the key difference? Both Din and Cassian are allowed to be flawed, to make mistakes, to grow gradually over time. They're not handed their character development. They earn it through choices and consequences. Even look at Grogu, who literally cannot speak. The writers still managed to give him a clear character arc across multiple seasons. He starts as a passive Force user who relies on others for protection, and gradually becomes more active in defending himself and others. His relationship with the Force evolves from instinctive to more controlled. That's character development without a single line of dialogue. So clearly the talent exists to write compelling Star Wars characters. The streaming teams just seem to have a completely different creative philosophy than the theatrical teams did. It's like they learned from the sequel trilogy's mistakes while the movie people apparently didn't get the memo. The streaming shows understand that Star Wars works best when it's about people making difficult choices in extraordinary circumstances. The sequel trilogy seemed to think Star Wars was about extraordinary people making obvious choices in spectacular circumstances. That's a fundamental misunderstanding of what makes these stories compelling, and you can see this in how they approach character introductions. When we first meet Shin, she's in the middle of a mission with clear objectives and obstacles. We immediately understand her relationship to Baylan, her role in their partnership, and her attitude toward their work. The scene establishes character through action. When we first meet Rey, she's scavenging parts from a Star Destroyer. It's visually interesting, It establishes that she's resourceful and independent, but it doesn't tell us much about her internal life, her goals, or her relationships. The scene establishes situation, not character. This pattern continues throughout both characters' stories. While Shin's scenes consistently reveal new aspects of her personality, her beliefs, her conflicts, Rey's scenes consistently move the plot forward while keeping her internal life relatively static. One approach creates character investment, the other creates plot momentum. Shin Hati works because her creators understood that compelling characters drive compelling stories, not the other way around. Rey struggled because her creators thought spectacular set pieces could substitute for character development. And in an age where audiences have access to incredibly sophisticated storytelling across multiple platforms, that difference is impossible to hide. Maybe they'll figure this out for Rey's upcoming trilogy. Maybe they'll give her the character development she deserved the first time around. But until then, we have Shin, proof that you don't need a massive budget or endless screen time to create a compelling Star Wars character. So what do you think? Do you agree that Shin is a better written character than Rey? Or am I completely off base here? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if this breakdown was helpful, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into what makes Star Wars characters work or not work. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.